Alright, what's going on, Giants fans? Really didn't want to do this video reacting to the Giants 27-13 loss to the Denver Broncos, even though it really should be 27-7. I really didn't want to do it. I called Justin and said, I don't want to do it. And he's like, well, you should do it. You got to do the job when it's tough. So I'm going to do my best to recap before rewatching the game. And I don't know where to start, man. I really don't, because there's a lot of bad, but we will start in the offense. And what's frustrating is, you think you'd get used to 0-1, and I just can't. I can't. We've been 0-1 10 out of the last 11 years, but I hate losing so freaking much. Like, I cannot get used to it. I just cannot. Like, I'm dejected because of this team. And last year they started 0-1 and obviously was dejected, but it wasn't like all bad. There was positive signs. And that team wasn't expected to be like a playoff team last season. This year they're expected to be a playoff team, and it looks worse than it did last year. There's very few bright spots to pull out of it, and the things that are bad are the things we worry that would be bad. So we'll start with the QB, Daniel Jones. Everything football starts with the quarterback. And he finished the stat-wise 22 of 37, 267 yards, 1 touchdown, 6 carries, 27 yards for a touchdown. And he was operating well within the offense and its limits. Like scrambling when he needed to. Like the first 2.5 quarters, he was doing well. It was just like there were some limitations to the offense. They had that play where it jumped off sides and completed that 40-yard bomb to Slayton, and then they run 2 gadget plays with Tony and they lose yards. And then, they're backed up in 3rd and long. Or no, they did the gadget to Tony, and then they did a draw and like it was 3rd and 20. So can't expect them to get out of that. And then the touchdown to Shep. But the fumble is killer. They're driving down the field the third quarter. They're down 17-10, or they're down 17-7, and he runs. Good job, first down, run. He even puts 2 hands on the rock. Like, you see him put 2 hands on the rock, you're feeling good. He's going to the ground, he fumbles. And it's just like, I just don't get it with the fumbles, man. Like, 2 hands high and tight, and he just fumbles it. Like, it's hard for me to wrap my head around that and analyze it. Like, every pass I can analyze. His pocket awareness, his athleticism, moving outside the pocket. That stuff you can analyze. Like, how do you analyze fumbles? Like, I just don't understand it. It's not like he hasn't put the work in. And maybe, a few weeks from now we'll look back and be like, wow, he kind of did clean up the fumbles a ton. But it's just when there's so little room for error, the errors feel huge, and that's what that fumble feels like. And honestly, there's a couple passes at the end of the game. I know they were down and it was kind of garbage time, but that could have been intercepted by DJ. And he got lucky on a couple. The one to Saquon in the end zone, and then the one to I actually blame that one on Rudolph when they ran 4 verts in the red zone and Rudolph just didn't turn his head. So I actually kind of blame that one on Rudolph. It seemed like he just wasn't expecting to get the ball in that situation, which, like, Jones likes to hit the tight end on those 4 vertical seam routes. But that fumble is like, it's not the difference in the game, but it's a huge difference, okay? Like, the game could have been 17-14 but instead it's 17-7 with 2 minutes left in the third quarter, and the Denver's offense has been, like, working us. So that's just so frustrating with Daniel Jones. And it's week 1, so you can't overreact like crazy. But there is things that you should react to and be very negative about with this Giants team. And with Daniel Jones QB and play caller, they go hand in hand. Jason Garrett. Listen, I gave Jason Garrett the benefit of the doubt. Like, hey, there's going to be better players here. They're going to do different stuff. And it just seems like the same old stuff, man. And you guys have heard me, like, the stick concepts are just, it's endless. Like, that is what this offense is built around. The offense plays like they're a team that is respected deep, and they just flat out aren't. Like, think about, like, when did the stick concept, like, really, like, help a drive? There's some that are completed, but a lot of times they were sitting on them, and they're incompletions, especially in the beginning of the game. And they signed Kenny Golladay. They signed Kenny Golladay to be a contested catch wide receiver. Kenny Galladay's not Tyreek Hill. Like, you're not looking for Kenny Golladay to be wide open. You're looking for him to have one-on-one coverage and good situations. And they didn't throw the ball to him until garbage time. They had the one max protect play in the first half for 17 yards or whatever it was, and then the rest was all in garbage time. And their only shot play of the game was on an offsides to start the game. It's a 40-yard pass to Darius Slayton. Like, why did the defense have to jump offsides for the Giants to take shots? Like, we know what Daniel Jones' strength is. It's his accuracy downfield, and you saw it on that play. Why does Kenny Golladay not get any of those chances until the fourth quarter when the game's over? Like, that is what you signed for him for. Like, that's why he was brought in. He wasn't brought in to play the way Sterling Shepard did, and Sterling Shepard did play well. And you can't blame the offensive line. If there is one bright spot from this game, the offensive line looked kind of decent. There was some bad reps, but Andrew Thomas looked dominant. Ben Bredesen and Shane Lemieux split reps at left guard. I'm really looking forward to going and rewatching those guys. But do you remember any bad plays from them? Do you remember any bad plays from Gates? Now Solder and Parrott, and especially at the end of the game when there's a screenshot and I tweeted it where Parrott just doesn't get off the line. That wasn't like a bad something. There's sometimes they didn't realize the ball was snapped. So I'm not gonna hate the offensive line for that. But Will Hernandez had some bad reps too. But Daniel Jones had time to throw the ball, so you can't give the excuse that they didn't have the time to go downfield. So it's just frustrating. They signed this guy to do this, to take those shots, and they just took no shots. The offense scored 7 points before the last garbage time touchdown. It's supposed to be better. I wasn't expecting some revamped, totally top 10 offense, but I was expecting better, and I feel like we just didn't get that. There has to be sweeping changes. I don't know if that's with moving guys, but there has to be internally with the Giants. It's not working like this. It's not working like this. We can't go a full season trying to do the same things over and over again. That's not the definition of insanity. I hate when people say that, but it is frustrating. It makes me insane when that happens. So, again, offensive line, hopefully I'll get some All-22 to do an O-line report. And then other things on the offense. Tony, they played him the first series of the game as a gadget guy, and they basically benched him after that. Why not use him a little bit, you draft him. Tony, if you obviously like him, use him. Saquon didn't look great, but, there wasn't a lot of room to run. So it's they just couldn't ever really get the run game going. So there's, if you want to, poke at the O-line, that would be what you'd have. But they also were stacking the boxes a ton, and they were running on first down into that, which was bothersome. And now what I will say, last thing on the offense, is the end of the half, that was pathetic. That was pathetic. They had no intentions of getting a first down. Zero. They run the ball on first down. I get that. I get the situation. It's the end of the half. Let's get the clock running. Maybe we can get an advantage. Second down, you throw it to Elijah Payne on the flats. And then the third down call, it is 3rd and 8, and you run a stick concept that doesn't go to the sticks. That's so frustrating. That is so that they had no intentions. They just wanted to run the clock. And what happens? The Broncos get the ball back. They show some balls and go for it on 4th down, and they score points. Okay? So maybe if you tried and didn't, coach the game scared there, well, maybe you get a first down, and at the halftime, it's 7-3 still. You go into the half with the lead. Instead, you go into the half losing the game, and then the Broncos get the ball and go on their first drive and score a touchdown. So that first touchdown, if they move the ball just one time at the end of the half, is now 10-7 and not 17-7, and you're just feeling deflated, and you have to score in the next drive. So that was embarrassing, that play calling right there. Defensively, it was definitely bad, but I will say with this, I would not panic about the defense. They have awesome players. Patrick Graham is a good defensive coordinator. And I point back to last year when they didn't have as good players. Remember Nick Mullins carving up this defense? They didn't look great versus Pittsburgh. They didn't look great versus Chicago. And it's just, there's going to have to changes, though. It's not like they're just going to continue to call the same man coverage game. And we know the Giants want to play more man coverage, and they're not going to abandon man coverage. But I do think they need to get back to some of their roots of what made Patrick Graham, which leads to guys making mistakes. Because Teddy Bridgewater, he was just carving him up. They 28 of 36, completed 78% of his passes, 264 yards in the touchdown. And a lot of it was on 3rd down. They went for 7 for 15 on 3rd down. And the part where you can worry about is the pass rush, because they're just not getting to the QB. Bridgewater had time. They had man coverage, and he was getting guys on crossing routes. Those are so hard to cover, those crossing routes and man coverage. James Bradbury got beat a few times, especially at the end of the half. Two of those throws were versus James Bradbury. So, it's hard to get mad at Patrick Graham for trusting James Bradbury. And honestly, last year, week 1, you did see Bradbury get beat a couple times in man coverage. So, I don't think you should panic about the defense, but it was bad. The one thing you can seriously worry about is this: they don't have the pass rush right now. Now Azeez can get better, but they just did not have the pass rush. So they even running these 5-man blitzes with one safety at the top. And they just didn't have the man coverage. A lot of that was, Darnay, too. He had some bad mistakes. Judy was cooking him, and then Judy breaks his ankle. The Giants break everybody's ankles. It's kind of sad at this point, where it's I don't know if it's exactly what his injury was, but that's what it looked like. I felt bad for him because you could just see his foot sticking sideways. So, again, I would not panic about the defense, but it wasn't good. And here's where I will panic, where you could panic a little bit about the defense, is that the defense is going to have to win us games with the way this offense looks. So that's where it's like this defense kind of has no room for error, not because of them, but because of the offense. Like, the offense scored 7 points before that garbage time touchdown. There has to be higher expectations. There has to be higher expectations for this offense. It's year 4 of the Dave Gettleman regime. It's year 2 of Jason Garrett. It's year 3 of Daniel Jones. You added weapons. There has to be higher expectations out of this offense. Like, there's just no excuses for the offense to look that bad. So, again, the season's not over. It feels like it, but it's not. Get back to the greaseboard Giants. I don't think you should, call it quits on the season, but it is frustrating. 3 of the NFC East teams are 0-1. The one team that's 1-0 is the freaking Philadelphia Eagles, the team that's not supposed to win the division. So, frustrating. Judge, that calling the challenge on that was dumb. And he even kind of admitted that he knew it. I don't know if I believe him, but that was just flat out dumb. It ends up not mattering in the end of the game, but that was that could make a difference in games, losing that timeout. Yeah, I'm going to rewatch the game right now. We'll record our podcast, have it out in the morning. Appreciate you guys if you're sticking around long enough for the end of this video. Appreciate you guys. Back to the grease board. Let's go Big Blue.